Recording.
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm Rachel Barber with the County Historical Society, and we have our 175th anniversary for the county this year. And Renee contacted us about, incorporating the Board of Developmental Disabilities anniversary into the county anniversary. And we're very glad to do it. So one of the things we're doing is collecting some interviews today with people who have a connection with the Board of Developmental Disabilities. So why don't you go ahead, for the sake of the recording, and introduce yourselves and then explain what your connection is.
I'm Dr. Thomas Freytag.
I'm Gwen Freytag.
I was on the board back when we just passed a levy for the new industries building, and I was on the board when that was let out for architect renderings and was built, and saw it through the completion of the build.
And that would have been when? Like what years, maybe?
Well, it had to be somewhere like in the mid-'80s. I can't remember when exactly, but it was president of the board for a number of years. But my connection actually goes back to when the original, not this building, but the other building was built. My dad laid brick, and I worked here laying brick, doing various. I wasn't a bricklayer back then, but anyway, so I had a connection from a very early age. But I was on the board, and we then I was off a few years because of practice demands getting busier and busier, and then Gwen got on the board, and together we've done some very historically significant events, which I'll let her speak to.
Well, I have a daughter. Her name is Jessica, and she has MR and mild CP, and I was a young parent, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'd never really had anybody help us understand what was going on, with her, because he was practicing. He knew all the stuff, but I was the one that was at home and trying to figure all this out. And so we got in touch with the county board, and they got her into their program, and we also integrated her into a regular preschool.
She was in the early intervention program. She was probably what?
Three. Yeah, something like that.
What year was she born?
She was born in '82, and she just turned 40. She'd want you to know that. But as we got more involved in the DD program, I had gained a passion for it, because I saw other parents going through sometimes much worse things than I was going through. And I was just glad there was a place where we could go and get the help that we needed or guidance that we needed. And when she first came here, she wasn't talking. When she left, it was like she would say bubble, and that was a start, and that was a big deal to us, because I wanted her to talk. And I remember praying to God. I said, please let her talk, and I'll never tell her to shut up. Well, she talks now, and it's like she pushes the line. It's like you never get her to stop. But, she's been such a blessing, and this place gave her a really good first start.
And we also had her in a regular daycare, nursery school. And we began to notice that there was progress being made in that way, but yet there's progress being made here. And you want me to go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we learned and taught ourselves the benefits of having these children integrated into the public school system, because basically we had done an artificial integration. And we then educated ourselves, and we would take the superintendent of schools, Larry Good, city superintendents, and we would take them to various programs where they had what they called a multidisciplinary class, where they had, quote, normal kids in with the handicapped kids. So we went then and went to various board meetings, school board meetings, and basically presented that concept to the local school boards, public school, and then formed a group that we called the
MH Task Force.
MH Task Force, Multi-Handicap Task Force.
Because other parents were seeing the same thing. They wanted their kids to be included.
So we started having regular meetings, and we started talking with them, and this group was very interested, so we pursued it with the county superintendent, and Larry was very much supportive, and we eventually were able to get the first program at Bunker Hill in St. Mary's, and that was the very first integrated program. Along with that was a funding piece, which I'll let you speak to.
Well, the funding, we had the children, at one time here at the DD program, when they started moving into the public school, they had the children and we had the funding. So
the funding stayed here.
It was like, we want those children to be able to do the things they need to do, and there's only so much money, I guess, for that kind of thing. And so we devised a contract between the county board and the public school, which got the public school on board with us as far as, supporting what we're doing, and kind of brought the two together.
Which ironically you would have thought would have been a natural fit, but it was, and I would tell you, it was very, very controversial.
We were the first.
The first board meeting here in the gymnasium was packed, and there was very, very verbal support and very verbal people against the idea of taking the funding from this program to give to the public schools. But it was basically funding that had been tied to county levies, and the funding was for these kids. We just saw to it that it followed them wherever they might go.
Yeah.
And the opposition was because?
I think
the
they
way things
were worried.
Done.
Yeah, I think they were worried that, we're going to take something from them. Well, we're them now, and I can tell you, the program still goes on, and it's like, you've got to work together. And that was
the contract is now since pretty much.
They have to
I
turn
think
in
it
the bills,
exists, but I don't think anybody pays any attention, because Al Willis was superintendent here, and he was one of the programs we visited when they had the MH units in Shawnee. And to him, it was just a seamless connection, and it became a seamless connection. I mean, he was sad that even a kid in the public school needed a certain piece of equipment, which public school couldn't get, but it was sitting here.
So it brought everybody together.
It brought everybody together.
It did.
And it turned out to be, we would walk around actually with the different superintendents looking for classrooms where we could put a unit. And I can remember walking there side by side, what about this room? Or what about that room? And it went so far that then the teachers were 100% behind it. They just loved that interaction. And it went so far that we had one in the Catholic school at St. Joe.
That was an interesting thing.
They were short on people, big on space, funding was going away, and we introduced it, and then so the Catholic diocese approved having this public school unit in that building. And you talk to the teachers who were there, it was the best thing that ever happened. I mean, and every one of these units in the public school was the best thing that happened to that building, because these kids interacted and integrated, and they understood, and it created an awareness that was not present in Alves County. I mean, I grew up in Minster, and this school was still but an oddity, I guess. But it was remarkable, and now it's taken a whole life of its own.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of proud of that fact.
Yeah.
And there were other parents that helped us do this, and the Axes, Charlotte and Dave Axe were involved in
Super.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, it to truly understand it, you would have to be a parent, but it really turned out much better, than we ever thought. And our daughter is now 40, and she lives on her own. She does have caregivers.
Tell them about Special Olympics. She got extremely involved in Special Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
She goes every year and volunteers and
you do what you do to support your children, no matter if they're disabled or if they're not. And you find ways to find out what they like.
That is probably one of the most rewarding experiences that we've had as parents. I can remember a relay, and Jess was running the relay, and one little girl dropped the baton. They all stopped, waited till she picked it up, and then continued running.
If the world was more like that.
That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's the big picture.
I've had these kids in my practice over the years, and they have truly enriched me and enriched my practice, because they are unbelievable human beings that share so much love and a unique perspective, and they have a way of reaching out and touching people that we don't. Maybe it's because we got too many biases, but they don't have a bias.
If they love you, they love you.
Yeah. Now, if they don't like you, that's probably
they might
good
tell you.
Yeah. but
you know where you stand.
Yeah, they do. They're dead honest.
So did Jess always enjoy going to school?
Oh, yeah. We never had trouble. No, she broke her hip when she fell in a register at the house. She broke her hip, and she went, school, and so we had to get a wagon, and they picked her up in a wagon. Took her, because she couldn't move that leg. She couldn't go in a wheelchair, but yeah, she always loved school, and she loves people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And people have come to know her in our own community, and they watch out for her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's comforting as a parent, because there's so many things out there that could happen. You try not to think about them, but to know that there's another set of eyes out there watching is very helpful.
So she'd become an integral part of a wider community. I mean,
she's little old Jess in this big wide community.
Yeah.
So did you ever feel like you had to train other folks, like when she went into the public school, like train the teachers that they had odd stereotypes or misconceptions?
Teachers are great, and they want to do the job. Now, I will say this, I think to make it successful for some kids, you have to have some help to do that. So, if like a teacher's taking someone that, really takes a lot of time, then they should have an aide.
Mm-hmm.
And they did see to it.
And we made sure at that point anyway, that there was always an aide in the classroom.
Now, there's been issues at the state level and some of their concepts which seem opposite of what really should happen in rural Ohio. And we've had to make trips to Columbus to remind them of what rural Ohio is all about. It's not just Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and their ideas.
Our needs are a little different here.
And more practical. We would have to make trips there to kind of bring them back into focus.
So for people in Auglaize County who really don't know about the Board of Developmental Disabilities, how would you explain it to them in terms of how it's changed your family, helped Jessica, anything like that?
Well, I'm more than happy to share our experience. I don't know everything
And we have
either.
with
Yeah, we
dozens
have.
and dozens of parents who
We've
would seek us out.
We've mentored young parents that didn't know how to cope with things, you know, and it's like, not that we have every answer, we don't, because every day is a different day, but if you can help somebody make life a little easier for the hard job they have, because it's not always easy, you know.
We get referrals from
Yeah.
teachers.
Would you mind talking to this person?
Or church.
Of course.
Would you mind talking to these people? Or people who hear from somebody else. And we've had quite a number who was very reluctant and kind of worried about the stigma, and we're able to introduce them to a different way of looking at it. But for us, it's been a godsend, and our goal for Jessica is for her to have as normal a life as she can have. And you know her; she's very social, very out there, very in the public, very happy in the public. Loves her work. She's been Employee of the Month a couple of times, and she just.
And where does she work?
At the Industries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, she that's where she wanted to go. She tried a few other things, and she did it for a while.
She always came back to that because
she wanted to go back.
You know, it's a good environment, and fortunately they've been able to continue finding work and places for these and work situations for these kids that they can participate and just sort stuff in little bags, and by God, she sorts better than I do, and she's just very much and just loves work, just loves work.
Yeah, she does. She loves it.
And what are her events in the Special Olympics? So she does
track and field, and part of that is if you do track and field, you also have the opportunity to do softball throw, where you as far as you can throw, as straight as you can throw. And then also they have relays, and she's in a relay. And then she also does bowling, but when we go to state, that's the big one, you know. They all love to go to state because we take a whole slew of them, and they have so much fun. It's so enlightening and heartfelt to watch them, you know, do this and come out with, you know, our athletes are pretty good. They come home with gold medals and silver medals, and you know, they place them in categories of similar, you know, like times and stuff like that. They try to.
Every once in a while you get a ringer in there, but you know.
You know, so it's that's been a good thing for her.
Yeah, very good. She last year, well, during COVID they didn't have it, and then we also started sending her to a camp, Recreation Unlimited, which was started by Jimmy Crum, who was a athletic newscaster with Ohio State University, and he started this camp over in Delaware, Ohio. It's all for handicapped, and they have counselors, and they have all climbing walls. They have camps out in the woods. They've got a lake with pontoon. They've got a pool. They have dances. Every year, Jess comes back with a new boyfriend. But it's just been tremendous. And I think last year is the first year that
she didn't get to
they
go.
didn't have enough.
They didn't have enough help.
To run the camp. So.
It was just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But that's the first year. Well, during COVID they did.
Yeah, the COVID year they shut down, and but this year she's going. She got confirmed, and she's going, and she's all excited to go.
First year we took her, I can remember Brandon and Gwen and I, and we dropped her off, and she turned off running, kind of waved goodbye.
She didn't hear.
We all sat there and kind of cried. There goes our baby, and they.
She was about 10.
Yeah, just that was it. Okay.
And I remember when we first put her on. We used to serve the newborns to age 3, or newborns to age 3, I think it was, and inside the building here. And we put the very first day she went, like I said, she was about 3, and we put her on the bus, Tom and I, and she's kind of looking at us, and as she drove away, you know, she was trying to wave to us, and we were standing there, ooh, you know, she's going all the way across the county. But it's looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.
There were trying times, but looking back,
You learn.
We did the right things and it turned out to benefit others besides her. So, but I mean, there's probably hundreds of families who've had an integral part in a lot of areas, but we were in the right situation where we could do those things.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's just that, you know, if you're a parent that's struggling, there's always an answer out there for you. You know, our goal is to keep families together, because, you know, something like that sometimes pushes people apart. Yeah. But there's always an answer for that.
And Renee is doing a wonderful job.
She is. She's doing a great job.
She's just very wonderful. She's probably the first woman superintendent we've ever had back till way beyond. There was a lady here when I was on the board, but she's doing super.
She's got a good heart, and you know, part of being a good provider or a teacher or whatever, you have to have the heart to do it. Yeah. And you know, you always felt like you had a friend here.
Yeah, that was for sure. That was for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah,
It's come to
thanks
New
for
Bremen to
asking.
see you.